I saw in my kids' face that they were worried. From the day we came back, they were worried. They were scared. When they saw how I came back at the beginning, straight to my beer and Cheetos, it took me a while. I think we're better now.
Welcome to What Came After. I'm your host, Manya Marcus. On What Came After, we'll take a look at the many ways that people's lives changed on and after the brutal massacre in Israel on October 7th, 2023. We'll be speaking with people in Israel and around the world about how the devastating attack by Hamas has shifted, shaped, and changed them. To learn more about our podcast, please visit us at whatcameafter.com. Sarit, thank you so much for joining me. It's really nice to have a good friend.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to start by asking you to introduce yourself. I've known you for a while, but our listeners don't yet. Tell us who you are and what you do.
So my name is Zanger-Nadis. I'm a mom of 3 kids, adorable ones. Wife to Ronen. I'm a social worker and I'm a writer.
Tell us how social work has been for you, specifically what role you're in right now and how that's been affected by the war.
So I work in the welfare department in Pardes Chana, and I give service to the residents of Pardes Chana. I'm Os Mishpacha, you say in Hebrew. I have 120 families under my supervision. I also have my youth club. It's boys age 15 to 17 that we open up twice a week in the afternoon.
So you work with kids and their families who are at risk, who are struggling. What kind of challenges do they have?
So it's a variety of struggles. It can be economic struggle. It can be mental health. It can be violence at the house, kids or adults with addiction. In this line of work, you see everything, which is interesting, but hard.
You're giving me a look. Yes. It's also hard.
Yeah.
The last time that I saw you before the war was in 2019. And you were just starting this job and you were saying it was already quite challenging. I then saw you after the war started and you said that the work, the intensity had exploded. I'm wondering if you can share more about the shift.
I think in social work, there's always a hectic time. The corona brought a lot of problems that we still dealing with, especially economical problems, a lot of social anxiety with the kids and youth that refuse to go out of the house, have no social life, addiction to screens, and all kinds of other problems. People lost their businesses, and it's been quite hard for the families. And the war came and didn't let us finish the recovery. It's interesting because when the war started, I was in New York, October 7. On October 8, we flew back, which made me really stressed about taking my kids back home to the war. But I was thinking about all the patients and all the post-traumatic from all the other wars and all the other problems. I felt like I should be here because this is how I serve. I don't do the army. I went to national service. I don't do much volunteering because my work and the payday is kind of like volunteering, but felt I need to be here. When we came to the department, it was very quiet. Very, very quiet. And we started to divide ourselves into jobs, like taking all the names of the Nova from Pardes Chana, and the families that was evacuated and came to Pardes Chana, and trying to see what services we should build to help them. And there was a lot of planning and talking. And while we were planning and talking, people in the private section already started doing stuff like open group therapies for youth, for adults, for parents, how to deal with stuff. And then we combined forces. But I felt very weird because I came and I was like, I came to war, I came to fight. It's not like in the front line, it's a support. And it was very, very quiet. My customers, they haven't called, and I was surprised. I thought maybe it's a shock. Maybe I was ready to like give whatever they need and try to help them. But it was quiet for the 2, 3 first days. And then the chaos started. If the corona was a wave that we haven't recovered from, the war caused more anxiety with the families, the post-traumatic people, as I suspected, took it very, very badly. I had this woman that was abused, and thinking about all the other women and the stories and what happened in the war, it all came flooding back, and she couldn't deal. She couldn't deal with what's going on. It was very hard for her. I can say right now we're in the 10th month in, we can already see problems with kids and youth, and especially in the partnerships. In Pardes Chana, we had like family that were evacuated, but they didn't need much support. They were more, we gave them a little bit, but they moved on or rented houses. The Nova festival people that were there got services from the festival that opened this place that they could come and get treatment and whatever. But in the end, we came back to our families and we saw their pain and their struggle. And what I see mainly is the Miluim family. I see the families that broke. Mostly men go to war and it takes time for them to come back home. And what does it do to their kids? There was this kid with a lot of anxiety, and he got this bunny. He could hug and tell the bunny all about how he's afraid his dad is not going to come back from war.
Let me just jump in here and explain that Miluim means reserves. So these are primarily men who are not active duty soldiers and probably did not anticipate that they were going to be pulled out one day and essentially be on the front lines for weeks, months at a time. These are not children who are used to their parents being gone for an extended period.
So those families that need to deal with the new routine, the wives are handling mostly women, because there's women in Miluim as well. But mostly the women needs to deal with raising the small children by themselves and with the worry and with the anxiety. This one story that really touched me, and I even wrote a short story about it because that's my therapy, was this family that the couple, they weren't in good shape even before the war. And they were struggling. And when the husband went to Gaza, it was hard for her. The kids were in really bad shape. We got reports from the school and we intervened and knew the family. And it took her a while, but she got used to it and she got better. And then she got to understand that she can do it all by herself and she doesn't need him. So when he came back, she was asking for divorce. And I remember sitting in the room with them. He looked so bad, so sad, so broken. And with his gun on, came from Gaza, sitting next to the table. And I was actually really scared for him because I thought to myself, here he came back from war. See that his house broke, his family is breaking. He was in a really bad mental health state. And I was thinking he can go out there and just shoot himself.
Was he okay? Did you follow up with the family?
Of course. So we were in touch with them and we were about to send them into a family therapy, which is a parental guidance and therapy for the kids. And we don't get much money.
Mm-hmm.
We got cut off and we don't have this service that we promised to give them. So we gave them a different one in the meantime, which is a couple therapy, so they can work their separation and have support during that. And I met them and he was like, you don't have to worry about me. I know you were worried. I'm better. And the mom said that he's a good dad and he found a place and the kids love to go over. And I'm more optimistic, but it was a very sad and upsetting moment. And I'm sure they're not the only one.
I'm sure there's a lot of families that have been broken by this in many ways, including divorces that we don't hear about or think about.
Maybe not divorces, but we can see And I heard a lot of even friends of mine or people I work with, the people I know that tells that they come back different from the war. I think they have like a kind of a camp, like a week before they coming back from Gaza to have this therapy and talk and not immediately go from Gaza, from the war zone or from the north, because we have all kind of places at war right now. So they can recover a bit before coming home. But at the end, they come home and they have less patience for their kids and they can't suffer noises. Not everybody has post-traumatic disorder. This we will see in the long run, but we can see it's hard.
I want to ask you not just about your clients, the clients of the center and the people that you work with and you serve formally. I want to also ask you about your colleagues and your staff, what it was like for them to come back and anything that you noticed.
So we have a couple of colleagues that their husbands are in the reserves. So they have to deal from both sides. And it's been really hard in our line of work. There's so much pressure and a lot of things to do and a lot of people to take care of. And sometimes they feel forgotten or not seen. So one of them that works with me with the youth, when I complimented her and told her how strong she was and how amazing she is for doing all this stuff, she just started crying because nobody else, she felt like she's not seen. She's seen like her regular self, but nobody understands things she has to juggle just to be here. Because it's war, everybody expects from you a lot, but it always feels like you're not giving back as much.
Your husband, who's also a very good friend of mine, is not in the army. He's not in Miluim. Has that been hard for you in terms of relating to people, or do you feel like it's giving you extra strength to do what you need to do right now?
It was a choice. He wasn't drafted. He's too old for that, thank God. But our friends that were the same age could have volunteered. What he did in the army was truck driver. He could have volunteered, but we decided that we need someone at the house and someone outside. He thought about it, even not in the army, maybe when all the evacuated went to Elat, there were requests for a mathematic teacher to teach the kids there. And we talked about it, and he was asking, should I just go there for a week? Come back for the weekend? Maybe I should do that. And we understood that we have to take care of our kids as well. So at least one person should stay in the house.
So you in your house, you are the one who is currently, you said, the soldier in the war. I mean, not an actual
I'm not
soldier,
a real
but
soldier, but
but there's a service that you're providing and it's taking a toll on you.
yes, yes. And I saw in my kids' face that they were worried. From the day we came back, they were worried. They were scared. When they saw how I came back at the beginning, straight to my beer and Cheetos and let's watch TV and not talk about anything else. It took me a while. I think we're better now.
Well, I was just at your house for Shabbat, so I can vouch for the fact that everyone is doing okay.
Yeah, they're doing okay. One of them still like, why did we came back on October 8th?
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. Do you think that if you had a different role, I mean, we're going to talk about this in a minute, you're also an author. If you were exclusively a writer and not also a social worker, do you think you would have gotten on that flight?
I can say that Ronen and I, like, both of us felt the immediate need to come back home. Because to be far away and hear about everything sounds much worse. Also, let's say we live in Pardes Chana, which is kind of a green island in the middle of Israel. So I can't knock on the wood table right now, and so missiles from the north doesn't come near us, and the Gaza front is far away. Although last week we had this military exercise of what happened if somebody tried to hurt Hadera or Pardes Chana, because we have the electricity power station over there, and what happened if something will fall. It always can happen, but it's usually quiet.
So Let's transition for a minute and talk about your identity as an author and a writer. First of all, it corresponds in my mind a lot to the fact that you are Yemenite. These are the subjects of your books, Yemenite women primarily, a Yemenite girl in your latest. I would love if you could tell us about what you've written and maybe share a little bit about how it feels to you that there's so much criticism of Israel from the West for being a white, racist place. How does that sit with you as a Yemenite Jew?
There's a lot of questions.
There were a
in
lot
that
of
question.
questions.
To start at the beginning.
Yes.
So I wrote two books. The first one called the Hamama in English. You can find it on Amazon. And it's actually my grandparents' story about how they grew up in Yemen and their journey to Israel. They came to Israel in 42 while the British was there, and all about their adventures and their love stories and their Zionism and
their disappointments.
And their disappointments. Yes. So that's the first book. And my second one that just came out, only in Hebrew, sorry. I need to find someone to translate and publisher and whatever. It's called Akolo Sophie, which is all about Sophie. It's a coming of age story about these girls also from the Yemenite neighborhood. Now it's in 84 when the Operation Moses that brought the Ethiopian Jews to Israel. So we have Sophie, which is a Yemenite descent, and Moshe, which is a new immigrant from Ethiopia. And their other friends that they like to solve mysteries. And she's in a very good relationship with her grandma, but not with her mom. And while she helped her grandma delivering Yemenite food for her friends, she discovers a body of a friend, like a Yemenite old woman. And there's starting to be murders of the Yemenite old women in the neighborhood. And she and her friends trying to discover who would kill those sweet old Yemenite women. And as far as she goes into this mystery, she discovers why her mom and her grandma doesn't really communicate and how everything is connected to her own family stories. And it becomes like a Yemenite fantasy of demons and whatnot.
I really hope I can read it.
I really hope you can read it too. Anyways, so yes, I'm connecting with my Yemenite history. I think it's something I also give lectures, and I think it's something that we are not taught enough. So I think it's important for everybody to understand there's a lot of Jewish from Islamic countries that came to Israel, or the Ethiopian Jews. So it's something to educate not only the racists from afar, but also here in Israel. Not a lot of people know stuff about the Yemenite Jews and what they had to deal with when they came to Israel. And to your second question about racism or anti-Semitism in the state, or
I should specify, we lived together in America and you were there for a decade.
yes, I was. It was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. I miss Skokie. I'm writing a book about the Potawatomi tribe right now because I missed Skokie so much.
That's the name of our block.
Yes, it was for me.
Was.
So I think there's a lot of that people don't know. They don't know a lot of Israel, because of the whitewash of history, because people, even us, we don't study enough about our own cultures that's here in Israel. So it's easy for people to focus on just one group, which of course it's a mistake and it's not true. And I love that Ethiopian girls, especially Ethiopian soldiers, do like TikToks and telling the world, we're Black, but we're Israeli and we're proud, and stop calling Israel,
Such a white place. Yeah.
Yes.
There's something really interesting, which is that until I met you in America, I had never heard of the Yemenite Children's Affair. I want to give you a second to explain that. But first, I also want to say, I do. I want to give you a second to explain that. And there's a reason for it. And the reason I'm bringing it up now is that it always shocked me that you had this information and you were lecturing about this real thing that happened in your own community in Israel, and that you were still such a proud Zionist. And I believe that you remain a proud Zionist, even though you're aware of the difficulties in the history and the present time. So tell us about the Yemenite Children's Affair. And then I just remember saying to you, in America, how can you still love this country? And I'll ask that to you now as well.
Okay, I don't know if I can speak about it in such a short time. It's a big deal, and I don't want to
minimize it.
Yes. I can say that the young state of Israel made a lot of mistakes. And sometimes it's hard to forgive those mistakes, and you are working to people to acknowledge the mistakes that were done and take responsibility, which is really familiar to the October 7 war, which I and a lot of other people want people to take responsibility of what happened over there.
Meaning you want the responsibility to be taken by Hamas, or you want responsibility by the Israeli government for letting its citizens down?
I don't care about Hamas. You know, there's the monster. Hamas is the monster. And we have to fight the monster. I think it's easy to understand that. Hamas is not the old Gazan Strip. Hamas is Hamas. But it's just another enemy that we deal along the way. And if our state does not have a good leadership, and we are not feeling safe, and we are disappointed in what happened, that's the big thing.
So you're talking about responsibility internally?
Exactly. I think that's important. And I think the Yemenite affair is the same thing. There's committees, there's groups of people, activists trying to find justice for those families. So in short, I can say that between 1948 and until 1951, while there was a big wave of immigration from Yemen and also from another Islamic countries, there was a lot of disappearance of babies. And when you try to understand and look into the details, and we understand that they came with a lot of disease, and some of them probably died. But there's a lot of stories of kids that were fine, and they were taken into a regular checkup. And a day later, they told the parents, your kid died. And there's a lot of theories what happened then, and did the state hold those babies? Did they give them for adoption? A lot of questions that I'm not going into, but I can say that there's a lot of families that those old Yemenite women, their heart is broken because they know something happened there that wasn't right. And a lot of other stories of people that say, okay, they told me that my baby died, and then I was fighting and I was like about to break the table, and then suddenly he was there alive and they gave it to me just so I be quiet. Whatever I say right now, I feel it's not giving justice to the subject, and I recommend reading more about it in the Amram website or whatever, because it's a lot of material one should read to understand fully what happened. Just this week, we said goodbye to Shoshi Zai, the Ashkenazi woman who also was investigating this subject and wrote 2 books. The kid is gone and the kid is still gone. Shoshi Zai just passed away. So I just thought to say her name right now, acknowledge her work.
I think that's really important that we share some links on the website and in the show notes, because it is a really important part, I think, of Israeli history. Something, again, I didn't know. It doesn't make the early state look very good when you learn more about it. And yet you have persisted. I think that your love for this country is very real.
Yes, yes. I love this country. It's my home. I get angry by it. I get angry a lot. I'm frustrated. It's like in a relationship. If you care, you care, and you have strong feelings, good and bad. So it's the same thing with Israel. I have my criticism. It doesn't mean that I don't want to live here or I don't think this is the home for the Jewish nation.
You have kids who are older, and your oldest has friends who are starting to get their draft papers already. She's turning 16, I believe.
Are you trying to give me an anxiety attack?
Would be great for the ratings. Just kidding. No, of course not. I am wondering what it's like for you as a social worker, as a parent, as a historian, as an author, as a mother, all these hats you wear. What is it like to know that your children are most likely going to be in the IDF?
So coming here, I took a ride from this woman who took her soldier boy to the train. It was nice of her. Otherwise, I had to walk and miss the train. And she said goodbye to him. Every time I see someone say goodbye to a soldier, I have in my mind that they won't see them again. And I think they know that too. And we heard the wives and mothers of fallen soldiers. In Pardes Chana, we had this day, and I think we can comprehend the sorrow. It's really sad. And I don't want to be in that state. But it's my kids' choice what to do, and where to go, where to serve. This is their life, and I will support them and hope that by the time they go to the army, there won't be any war.
I want to thank you for joining me. This has been a really interesting conversation. I really hope that the book is available in English at some point soon. I know the daughter I just spoke about is helping you do some translations, which is pretty neat. I also want to let people know that I think you're graduating with your master's soon. Is that right?
Yeah, I just gave in my almost last work. I have one more test and I'll graduate the master's in social work, clinical practice for youth.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
לשלוח יד אל יגונך, לשאת איתך בצער. באה אלייך, לשלוח יד אל כתפך, את שומרת פער. לא נותנת לעצמך שנייה ליפול, מיד אוספת. אי אפשר עכשיו לשאול, את מחייכת. בפנים הפחד רוקד, הפחד בודד. בפנים הפחד רוקד, הפחד. בפנים הפחד רוקד. באה אלייך לשלוח יד אל הפחדים ולהבריח אותם. לשבור מעט את הכלים ולאחות עוד פעם. לא נותנת לעצמך שנייה ליפול, מיד אוספת. אי אפשר עכשיו לשאול, את מחייכת. בפנים הפחד רוקד, הפחד בודד. בפנים הפחד רוקד, הפחד.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe to What Came After wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us online at whatcameafter.com.